How could a sweet girl commit such a brutal crime? Not every experienced criminal would do what a former schoolgirl did. What were her motives and how did she justify herself? Watch the new video, Real Crime Story. This incident occurred in the United States of America due to the fault of Sabrina Zunick. Sabrina was born on October 27, 1994 in Cleveland, Ohio, USA, to Susan Edwards and Mark Zunick. Sabrina's parents led an antisocial lifestyle, so the girl was raised by her paternal grandmother from the age of 3. At the age of 4, Sabrina was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder caused by a disorder of the nervous system. As Sabrina grew older, it became more and more difficult for her to control herself, and her impulsive behavior regularly led to conflicts with others and fights with classmates. Due to Sabrina's constant aggression, at the age of 14, she was separated from her grandmother and placed in an orphanage, which was administered by the Lake County Department of Children's Services. Sabrina spent the next 2 years in a shelter, and in 2011, at the age of 16, she was adopted by the Norfell family and moved to their home in a suburb of Cleveland. Sabrina's adoptive mother's name was Lisa Norfell. Lisa was a woman with a kind heart, truly loved children, and strived to help people around. She was born on May 2, 1971 to Clark and Rita in Reynoldsburg. In 2000, Lisa moved to Lake County, where she subsequently started a family with a man named Kevin Norfell and became the mother of 2 daughters, the eldest of whom was named Megan, and the youngest of whom was named Haley. Lisa was a social services officer with the Juvenile and Family Services Division in Cuyahoga County, Ohio. One day she realized her dreams and opened her own orphanage, and that's when she adopted Sabrina. Being with a new family had a positive effect on Sabrina. As a high school student, she suddenly improved in her studies, began to get good grades, and, in parallel with her studies, made plans for the future. So one day, Sabrina admitted to her adoptive parents that she dreams of becoming a model and studying cosmetology. Lisa and Kevin were very pleased with the success of the former difficult teenager and noted Sabrina's excellent relationship with both them and their own daughters. Sabrina had a particularly warm connection with Lisa herself. Relatives and family friends noted that the girls looked more like sisters. Sabrina has repeatedly said that she admires Lisa, that she sees her as a role model and truly considers her her big sister. Unfortunately, the idol in the family did not last long. Problems began 6 months after Sabrina arrived with her new family. Suddenly, the girl began to accuse Lisa of not loving herself and paying more attention to her own daughters. At the same time, while the relationship between the adoptive mother and daughter developed, the connection between Sabrina and Kevin only became stronger. The stepfather and adopted daughter grew closer every day until the moment came when friends and family noticed their suspicious behavior. The dialogues and jokes that came from the lips of Sabrina and Kevin were more reminiscent of a conversation between lovers. On October 27, 2012, Sabrina turned 18 years old. According to the law, the girl had to start an independent life and leave the foster family. For a while, Sabrina asked her foster parents to let her stay so she could finish high school in peace. On November 16th of the same 2012, at about 1 in the morning, Sabrina picked up a knife, made her way into Lisa's bedroom, and went to her bed. She silently watched Lisa as she slept for 15 minutes and then began stabbing her with a 10-inch serrated kitchen knife. Lisa woke up after the first blows and began screaming in pain, but soon her screams died down. Megan, Lisa's own daughter, who was 13 at the time, heard her mother's voice, ran to her bedroom, and saw Sabrina with a knife in her hands. The frightened girl immediately rushed to call the emergency services and, amid screams and sobs, reported that her sister was trying to kill her mother. The police soon arrived at the house, but it was too late. When law enforcement officers arrived at the scene, they found Sabrina with several superficial cuts visible on her body, and in one of her hands she still had the knife with which she dealt with Lisa, who was lying covered in blood. It seemed that Sabrina was in a state of shock, but at the same time she clearly complied with all the requests of the police. An officer named Randy Mulinax asked her to drop the knife and put her hands behind her head, which is exactly what she did. At the same time, although Sabrina was not against being arrested, she did not answer any of the questions that were asked to her at the police station. Meanwhile, the police finished searching the house and found Lisa's youngest daughter locked in one of the closets. That night, Kevin, the girl's father, was not at home because he was away on a business trip. The man worked as a truck driver and learned about what happened to his wife thanks to a call from the police. Minutes after that call, Kevin called 911 to ask about his daughter's condition. He was told that he could drive to the police station and pick them up. Kevin arrived there the next day. During Kevin's visit to the police station, officers noted how calm he was. The police expected to see a man crushed by grief over what happened to his wife, but he was calm. He simply took his daughters, asking virtually no questions, and went home. This alerted the police, and subsequently the couple's relatives and friends, since everyone believed that Kevin could not remain so calm after what had happened. Kevin soon went to the prison where he tried to get permission to talk to Sabrina, who was being held in custody. So his peace came to an end. The adoptive father became angry when he was not allowed to see or talk to his adopted daughter. As a result, he went home in a disgusting mood. News of the brutal crime alarmed the local media. Lake County Police determined that the victim had been stabbed a total of 178 times, including in the head, neck, torso, and extremities. Despite the fact that it was initially obvious to investigators who the killer was, they still had questions about determining a possible motive for the crime. For the next 10 months after the incident, detectives did nothing but try to piece together the details they had. The police also paid great attention to the nature of the relationship between Sabrina and Kevin, which seemed suspicious to them. So, as part of the first interrogations of possible witnesses, it became known that Sabrina admitted to a social worker she knew that she allowed Kevin to take nude photographs of her for money. And a week before the crime, Kevin himself contacted the same social service worker and told her that he and his wife were thinking about divorce, but at the same time wanted to retain custody of their adopted daughter. And finally, one of Sabrina's friends told witnesses during interrogation that in early October 2012, Kevin asked to find him a hitman. The information received by the police led them to believe that Kevin was also involved in this murder and participated in its planning. Investigators also discovered that Kevin took out 2 insurance policies under which he insured his wife's life for $800,000 just hours after she was pronounced dead. And on the day after her murder, he made a huge number of purchases. Sabrina initially denied that Kevin was involved in the murder, but after 9 months in her custody, in August 2013, Sabrina felt that her adoptive father did not want to know anything about her and agreed to help investigators by telling them what had happened, the cause of a terrible murder. Sabrina accused Kevin of planning Lisa's murder in advance and told very specific details of the romance that existed between them. The girl stated that the reason for killing her adoptive mother was her love for Kevin and her reluctance to share him with someone else. Sabrina said that their love relationship began in March 2012 when Kevin came home one day very tired after driving a truck for long hours. He told her that his legs hurt and Sabrina offered to massage his feet. From that day, mutual attraction to each other began to grow, and already in September of the same year they became permanent sexual partners. Sabrina also stated that Lisa never suspected their affair, as they behaved carefully. Kevin kept sending Sabrina heaps of messages on her cell phone, telling her that he no longer loved Lisa and wanted to start a new life with her. He revealed his plan to Sabrina and promised her a decent life together in the future with the money received from the insurance. Kevin promised the girl to buy them a house and a car, and in addition said that Sabrina could replace the girl's mother. According to Sabrina, she did not want to take the life of her adoptive mother and suggested that Kevin simply file for divorce. To this, Kevin said that if he did this, Lisa would separate him from his daughters. He also repeatedly joked, saying that a dead Lisa is worth much more than a living one. So Kevin's idea to get rid of his wife began to take shape, and the lovers decided that Sabrina would stab her to death with a knife, steal some jewelry, and then everyone would think that it was a failed robbery attempt that ended tragically with the murder of the mistress of the house. Kevin purchased the knife needed for the murder and taught Sabrina how to strike correctly to cause maximum damage to the victim. He also warned Sabrina that if she was arrested, she would need to pretend to be a mentally unstable person. Sabrina also told investigators what exactly served as the trigger for her murder. On the morning of November 15th, the day before the incident when Kevin was driving her to school, he suddenly stopped the car and began to cry. Kevin told Sabrina that he and Lisa had a terrible fight last night and that he would simply kill himself if his wife lived. Fearing that the man she was in love with would commit suicide, Sabrina accepted that she had to take Lisa's life. Investigators discussed the testimony received from Sabrina, and it was decided that Kevin should be taken into custody. So on August 9, 2013, a 43-year-old widower was arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder and accessory to a crime. Sabrina agreed to testify against him in exchange for the possibility of her parole after 30 years. In May 2014, the trial began, at which prosecutor Patrick Candon said that, of course, no one has any doubts about who actually committed the murder. And yet, Kevin knew very well what was going to happen that morning of November 16th, since it was he who helped Sabrina plan this murder, which means he was clearly involved in the murder. When Sabrina took the stand, she confessed to her affair with Kevin and detailed how they planned the crime, assuring the judges that the idea was Kevin's and that she only carried it out because she loved him and didn't want him to suffer. The defendant told the jury that she hoped justice would be served because she was not the only one involved in this crime. To talk about the defendant's behavior after the murder, the prosecutor called several officials who took part in the investigation to testify. Among them was a police officer who was one of the first to meet with Kevin the day after the murder. According to the officer, the widower seemed surprisingly calm. The court also interviewed several of the victim's colleagues. So one of them, a woman named Erica Gaither, said that the day after the murder she decided to go to Kevin's house to bring him and his daughter's food, and noticed how casually he behaved. She also said that at his wife's funeral, Kevin showed absolutely no emotion. The prosecution also brought to the stand several people who were somehow associated with insurance companies. These people unanimously stated that on the morning of Lisa's murder, Kevin called them to find out what documents were needed to receive payments under the insurance policy that he had taken out shortly before his wife's death. Also, testifying during the trial was the Lake County medical examiner who examined Lisa's body. He described the numerous horrific injuries she suffered, two of which he believed were fatal. So he mentioned wounds to the jaw in which the knife penetrated so deeply that it pierced the carotid artery, and wounds to the chest. The doctor said that the number of wounds inflicted was enormous, that some of them indicate that the victim was trying to resist, which means that for several minutes Lisa was trying to fight for her life. Investigators were never able to provide copies of the text messages exchanged between Sabrina and Kevin. Despite this, they provided data on the number of messages and phone calls between the couple. Thus, according to the mobile operator, the defendants sent each other 491 messages and made 78 calls between November 1st and November 16th, 2012. Kevin's lawyer, Michael Koenig, who represented Kevin in court, said that Sabrina should be considered the only culprit in Lisa's murder, since investigators have no physical evidence that Sabrina and Kevin were truly lovers. There were also no specific text messages between the defendants in which one could read that Kevin was planning to kill his wife. According to him, the only thing the accusing party had was the testimony of Sabrina herself, and with their help, the girl managed to get a reduction in her sentence. The lawyer said Kevin should be released because, according to him, the charges against him are baseless. He also claimed that Sabrina killed her adoptive mother not at Kevin's request, but because 2 weeks earlier Lisa demanded that she leave their home by January 1st, 2013. As for Kevin, he refused to testify in court. After a hearing that lasted 912 hours, a jury found him guilty on all 11 counts on June 11th. Subsequently, on August 6, 2014, Judge Joseph Gibson sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Kevin will be eligible for parole for the first time in 2044 when he will be 73 years old. The defense warned that it would appeal the verdict and, to this end, would focus on providing expert testimony about Sabrina's mental disabilities. According to lawyers, it was mental problems that forced her to commit this murder alone. After a trial in which Sabrina testified about her involvement in the murder of her adoptive mother, judges charged her with aggravated murder. The defendant's lawyer, Charles Graves, said that his client pleaded guilty, and Sabrina herself stated this at a hearing in August 2014. Already on September 29th of the same year, 19-year-old Sabrina Zunick was sentenced to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Thus, the prisoner will be eligible for parole in 2042 when she will be 47 years old. After hearing the verdict, Sabrina burst into tears. The judge explained to her that the only reason she was given a chance for parole was because she helped investigators. And although the judge agreed that Kevin manipulated the defendant and used her to achieve his goals, the crime she committed went beyond his original plan. The judge also ordered that Lisa's 2 daughters be paid $6 million in compensation. Sabrina, who is currently serving 28 years at the Dayton Correctional Facility, an Ohio prison for women that was founded in 1987. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more unique crime stories and support the channel, you can go to Boost using the link in the description. Thank you.